decided that yet. Now, I don't want to further points to this is going to be bad. So, apparently, it is heading sent each alternate. I like to look this way. Don't think to comment about this with more statements of quality. I don't know if I would like that far, but yeah, it barely breaks the scale in terms of severity. It gets pretty close to that. I don't think it like hits you, but I don't think the severe one is hard. A lot of this is having already progressives. This is absolutely no surprise. Those that get basically to the principles that I am not going to Trump. I didn't know Trump. You know, I know I said that. Trump. 5 or 6 months ago. When I said that, that was out of frustration. So, because of what was basically a lot of connection between the DP and the media, DNC, and the breakers. Anyhow, so now I don't have to. I'm not really all that disappointed at this point. And I'm over it because she honestly does not. She honestly hasn't nothing to do with my value system. She doesn't represent my value system at all. And the fact that she was even running to me was basically an insult to my intelligence. Now, I know you're all going to say, JG is so heavy. JG, come on, you're not a complete total misogynist, are you? Come on, this was the first woman to be nominated under the Trump ticket at the top tier. That's correct. But no, actually, I'm going to tell you right now that the candidate, the presidential candidate that I voted for, just also happens to be a woman. So, my point in not backing up Hillary was several fold. The biggest problem with Hillary is the fact that it's not the fact that she holds this view of basically being accountable to no one. No, it's just the fact that she can be incredibly polarizing, and she's also really ridiculous to whoever goes wrong by her. It's who she is. But the point is, she's been hiding who, along with Bill, had sort of been running a pay-to-play scheme, influence peddling, via the Clinton Foundation, as well as the Clinton, in some cases, the Clinton Initiative. If you look at some of the links, well, if you look at some, I would say links below, because I don't know, I'll see if I can find one or two of them that'll, kind of explain what I'm saying. But if you look at any of the, I would say, published disclosures by WikiLeaks thus far, you'll start to see what I'm talking about. Now, I know for a lot of, a lot of Trump fans and such, you're going to say that, he's saying basically what's wrong with the left and such, blah, 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 blah. No. First of all, I'm a diehard progressive. So, bringing me onto the regressive side isn't going to do you. It's not going to do you any favors. However, but one thing I will say though is that, and I'm being completely and totally candid here, the people who have never given me a problem in any way on Twitter or on Facebook or whatever, I have not had one major incident where I had to block somebody just because they were a Trump supporter. I get along with them just fine. Because the two of us, it's primarily because the two of us sort of have a common cause together, which is basically saying that we need to make sure that somebody who is literally that corrupt from becoming president of the United States and basically putting us in such a hellhole that it was just, we wouldn't have been able to get out of at all. Yeah, the people who I've been having a really, or things have gotten really nasty is primarily with Hillary supporters. Not all of them, but some of them are like, whew. Yeah, I've done the death row once, and it's like, come on. I'm not that worried about it. And at this point, because I'm because of me blogging and such, if I'm going to put something out there, getting a death threat comes with the territory. I'm not that worried about it. Because I don't disclose. Because I don't exactly have my exact location in anyone's, anywhere for someone to publicly find me. Sorry. So yeah, there's that. Now, I think that this is a good time to talk about a number of specifics that should actually be brought into perspective here, and why it is that James Comey, when he, well, let me put it this way, why James Comey did the wrong thing for the right reason. Or the way that it looks. Okay, so here's the deal, and here's what I suspect was going on. When the WikiLeaks disclosures were coming through, and he was basically being pushed, I would say, from the bottom. I think his hand was forced on Friday, which is why he disclosed what he did. And he's been getting a lot of heat from that, especially from the Democratic side of the aisle. Yeah, because they were singing praises at him all the way up until Friday. No, they want him practically dead on arrival at this point. That's because he's basically crossed Hillary. And I would think that even though he was pushing Loretta Lynch to actually do something about it, well, I know she kept throwing him down. I suspect he took this up with the president. And the president overruled the attorney general and said, no, go through with it. Because otherwise it's going to create a constitutional crisis of what we've never seen before in our lifetimes. I mean, think about it. A presidential candidate getting indicted either before or after they get in office. What is that going to do? That's going to put, it's going to put the vice presidential candidate, that'll put him into the presidency. But knowing the whole thing and how it's going to play out, I know offhand that the Republicans will want to get rid of him also, together with Hillary. And then, sort of giving them, and then make the Speaker of the House of Representatives the president, is what they're going to try to do, especially if it's Hillary. At this point. But I don't think that's not going to end up happening. What I think will end up happening, I would say, if it's not later this week or early next week, it'll be after the election that Hillary gets indicted. If, when they figure that once they figure that they have enough, to piece together an indictment for her, against her, they'll do it. It may be after the election. Then again, they could do the indictment before the election. It's not that they haven't indicted somebody up until just before the election. It's happened before. Think about what happened to Ted Stevens 8 years ago. It's why he lost his Senate race in Alaska. So there's that. There's but at this point, the way that I look at it and seeing it is, what happened with Donna Brazile. No, that's not a surprise to me at all. As the WikiLeaks, as they came out, have basically said that she leaked 2 questions over to Hillary Clinton. Which is why she went elsewhere. She's no longer a contributor to CNN, and that, yeah, and for people who know her, know whoever listened to her, realize that she's not a stupid woman. I mean, Donna Brazile is a very, very, very smart lady. But she's getting involved in so many. But the fact that she got caught up in this kind of stupidity is like, it's sad. Anyhow, what do I think will end up happening within the next, I would say, 8 days, maybe 7 days? Over the next week? Now, I know that a lot of you are going to be hearing about the fact that, oh, how James Comey is a Russian agent, blah, 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 and oh, how President Obama basically stabbed us in the back by saying that he had Hillary's back, and now he's going to be all like, I don't think that's what's going to end up happening. Well, no, that's what they're going to be saying, but the fact is that based off of what just happened, Donald Trump is going to be elected president. And I would say he's going to be elected president by a fairly sizable margin. I know the race is pretty close right now. At least that's what the poll averages say. But I think it's going to be by a margin that's much, much, much bigger. And I think that Donald Trump can take all of the states that have been voting Democratic, or mostly Democratic, for the past, I would say, almost quarter century or something, since about Bill Clinton's like overwhelming victory back in '92. I'm going to say that all of those states that have been almost permanently Democratic at this point, I think a number of them, I don't think all of them, but I think a good chunk of them will go Republican this time. But if this scandal continues to escalate and get worse and worse and worse, I would say all of the blue states will turn red. And not just red, I'm saying bright red. You could be potentially looking at a 50-state blowout. Now, it may not be that. It may just be like one of the most tightly contested squeaker elections. That's true. I mean, look, anything is possible. But I do think that given what's been happening and what's been unraveling right now, I would say there's a good chance that there's a small but fairly plausible chance that Donald Trump could take this election in a 50-state blowout. I can honestly see that happening, and I'll go one step further. I think he'll get all the electoral votes, depending on how disgusted people are with him. Oh, you're going to have to understand one thing. It's going to be a matter of, the fact is that the progressive and a lot of the hardcore left-wing vote is going to go to the Green Party. Some of them will go to Trump. Some of them will go to Gary Johnson or some other third party. Some of them will go to Clinton, but not that many. Most of them, I would say, are going to go. I would say the biggest bulk of them is going to go over to Jill Stein in the Green Party. That's who I voted for. She has my value system. I'm not too crazy about her being an anti-vaxxer, but minor details. No, but on practically everything else, she is 100% spot on. This really should have been Bernie's election, because he could have easily taken out Trump in a... I could see a 50-state blowout going the other way if it was Bernie Sanders, because everybody knows he's a democratic socialist. He didn't hide it. And what he was proposing to do was stuff that honest to God, we had basically done, or something that we've done in a limited capacity, that, well, like, let me tell you something. Tuition-free public colleges and universities, not private ones, public. If someone had proposed that about 60 years ago or something, that was not going to be considered radical. No, that was back under Eisenhower. That was considered middle of the road. So yeah, there's that. Now, am I going to be a fan of Trump being president? No. Personally, I think he's a buffoon. And if you've been watching what's been going on recently, I don't think I have to tell you this. The guy is sort of a buffoonish carnival barker, and he's very good in terms of reading crowds. But the stuff that he's saying about, the fact is, he says all kinds of outlandish things. Some of it is actually very offensive. I mean, the whole thing with disabilities, racism, anti-Semitism, ableism. I can go on and on and on, but you got the point. Pretty much he's an equal opportunity offender. But I'm going to tell you this right now. Most of what he is making in terms of policy proposals, first of all, they're so off the wall that I don't think, I would say, and I'm being generous here, he would be very lucky to get about 5 to 10% of that. Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell are not stupid enough to pass through a lot of what he's proposing. Like the wall, for example. They're not going to pass any funding for it. And no, they're not going to say that Mexico is going to end up paying for it. No, what I'm saying is it's just not going to happen. And that's why we have Congress, even if the Republicans control it right now. The fact is that they're not going to control it for very long if, or shall we say, when Trump is elected. They're not going to control it for very long. Or if they do control it, it'll be by a much, much, much smaller margin than they are right now. But Trump will be the fact is, Trump is going to be a lot simpler to rein in. Hillary Clinton, you couldn't do that. And I'm not just talking about all the investigations and such. And I'm not also talking about the fact with, either foreign policy and such. I'm talking about also with domestic policy. Like, take for example, how she made that cute comment about saying like, oh, well, if I'm elected, I will raise the estate tax on the very, which goes to the very wealthy, actually. I'll raise it up to 65%. Anybody who's a self-respecting progressive can easily see through that. That's a sorry excuse. No, it's just a sorry attempt. It's a sorry excuse in terms of trying to pander to us. We don't need another focus group to tell us something. Here's the thing. Basically, a lot of progressives are going to be saying right now, tell us something we don't know. But, as usual, we're ignored. Except when it comes to election time, then we're actually sought after. That's not how this can't continue. People need to start getting involved. I mean, it's as Bernie Sanders said, it's as Barack Obama has said. The change that we seek needs to come from all of us. We should be pushing for the change that we need. Hillary Clinton does not want change. Hillary Clinton wants to go back to the system before even Obamacare. Even though she says that she's going to want to keep it the way it is. First of all, it's not going to stay the way it is. Second of all, she wants to try to be traipsing around as if she's a progressive. She's not. She's actually more of a regressive than even Donald Trump is. Look, I'm going to say this right now. Trump is not that. Trump is is not as far to the right as he's campaigning to be right now. I don't think he's that conservative. Or if he, I mean, I'm not saying that he's a diehard liberal, but, well, Donald Trump is just basically Donald Trump. He's just being a carnival barker because, again, he's in the entertainment business, or he was in the entertainment business for quite a while, so he knows how to work crowds. The problem is that Hillary, while she may be a very smart lady, and she honestly can figure out and is sort of a wonkish kind of politician, kind of like Al Gore was. But there's a massive difference here. Hillary Clinton stands for nothing. She will just say anything, basically, to pander to whomever, and whatever seems politically expedient right at any particular moment, which is not the way to go, because you're basically chasing polls. That's not the way you lead. You lead by ignoring the polls and doing, based on the information that you have, doing what you think is right. Sometimes the least popular, anything that, I'll put it this way, anything that is the least popular of any kind of decision making or whatever, that's often the right way to go. Often, not always, but most of the time that tends to be true. But basically, here's the thing though, is that the reason that a lot of the, at least a lot of the Democratic establishment right now is they're scared. They've just been found out, and they know that they can't abandon Hillary because Hillary built them. Well, Hillary, and for that matter, Bill, had built the party the way it is from the, basically from the ground up. But they don't want to give up their current, status and such. But here's the thing. The fact is, something's going to have to give it one way or another. It's like Hillary wants power, but then she doesn't want to be held accountable when she has it. Look, I'm going to put this as simply as I can. For anybody who is deciding to, vote for Hillary, or basically anybody who's, or for that matter, a Hill botter or a Hill troller, whatever, you get the point. You can't have it both ways, where you get to have power but not be held accountable for it. No, it doesn't work like that. It's time to quit making excuses. We're saying, oh, well, what the Republicans do, well, the Republicans are worse. That's no way to lead. That means basically that means that all that means is that the only way that you can even quote unquote call that you or say that you have a mandate is to basically only to be chasing polls. That's it. Instead of actually focusing on issues, like Bernie Sanders did, like Barack Obama did back in 2008, like Jill Stein is currently, to a limited extent, Donald Trump, Gary Johnson to some extent, but Hillary is not even taking up any of the issues. And she won't. And anybody that tries to raise any kind of dissent against her, okay, let me put it this way. You think that throwing any dissent up at Trump is going to get you, is basically going to be the end of your presence anywhere? No. Trump may have some very hardcore supporters, and many of them are openly bigoted about it, or openly bigoted. I mean, let's just get that. I'm going to get that out of the way right now. Not all of them, but a good chunk of them. But the ones that are like really, really bigoted, they're a very tiny minority of Trump supporters. They may be some of the most vocal, but they're not the majority of his voters, or of his base, actually. No, I know this because I talk to Trump supporters from time to time on Twitter, and occasionally I get one or two of them, whenever I post something on Facebook. Again, most of them are not these mindless bigots. Some of them are actually very intelligent people. Let me put it to you that way. It's the same thing with Hillary supporters. Most of them may be very educated, maybe very, very smart, except the fact is they're falling for propaganda that is basically debunking not only opinion, but also facts. That is a real frightening scenario. And the problem is that anybody who raises any kind of dissent, and this is basically from what you're seeing right now, from Correct the Record, think about it right now, and you think this is crazy enough, think about what they could be doing if Hillary is president. They're bullying of anybody who's not talking, talking about any subject other than, oh, how great dear leader Hillary is, or I can think of some other names to go with it. The only one that I'll say on here is basically Crooked Hillary, but again, that's about as far as I'm going to go on here. But there you have it. I mean, the fact is that you think they're vicious now, trust me, they're going to be a lot worse. And I'm telling you, a whole lot worse if Hillary is president. So, this is one thing we're going to have to basically plug our noses and accept the fact that Donald Trump will be our next president. We'll be able to stand him. We'll be able to, if we have Congress keeping him in check, which is most likely what they're going to be doing, 90% of what the Republican Congress, which is going to retain itself, most of them, about 90% of the time, there's going to be a lot of infighting among Republicans, more so than Democrats. However, I think what's going to end up happening is that we could potentially see a very progressive Congress or a slightly less conservative one. It's going to be one or the other. But the point I'm making is that the Republicans will be in a lot of trouble, especially if 90% of the time that they're, the 90% of the time that they have the Congress at least within Trump's first 2 years in office. And if they get nothing done, which is actually very high, especially if Donald Trump is in there, because there's going to be a lot of bickering. And because of all that bickering, we could end up seeing a Democratic Congress in 2018. So, and a Democratic, you could basically see a Democratic tsunami from about the local level all the way up to the congressional level in 2018. That's what you could be looking at. But we won't know for another week about what the end result is going to end up being. My thinking is that everybody, when they vote, they're going to be voting against Hillary. It's not that they like Trump. No, most people can't stand Trump. But they figure that Trump, but they'll begin to say that Trump is actually the safer candidate to go with. First of all, he's not nearly as militaristic as Hillary is. Donald Trump is actually more of a pacifist than he's actually a lot more dovish than he is hawkish. The other thing is that the only other demon quality about him is the fact that he's proposing to renegotiate a lot of these trade deals to make it to give it a little more equilibrium. That's not a bad way to go. If he's trying to say going back to the 1950s, at least in terms of, economically wise, yeah, that's a good place to go. But socially wise, not a chance. And that's where we got to be holding Trump in check with, is trying to bring back Jim Crow. That's primarily going to be our biggest battle. Is doing that and making sure that, he's not going to bring the social end of the 1950s back into vogue again. But that's the battle we'll have, and it'll be a lot simpler if we are going to have a lot of them. If we're going to have a fascist, it's better to keep their fascism here at home where it's a little easier to take on, not projecting it elsewhere, which could potentially get us enthralled in a potential nuclear war here. That's where Hillary Clinton wants to go, which is the most boneheaded approach to go. I can tell you this from studying Russian history. That was my core focus when I was pursuing, going from one course after another, straight in, when I was working on my BA in history at San Francisco State University. So I'm going to tell you right now, it's a mess. And it's going to be an even bigger and worse one if Hillary Clinton is in the presidency. Granted, I agree with everybody. Donald Trump, because of both his bigotry and, for that matter, his incompetence, should be nowhere near, let alone being in the White House. That is correct. Donald Trump is most likely one of the least competent people to be going in there. However, the fact is, he will have a clear mandate to be in there. But it's not because people like him, it's because people really, 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 really despise Hillary. And that's going to be why he's getting it in there. Anyway, this is over 40 minutes, so I'm going to kill it here. This is JJ7, 1987, and I'm out of here.